Very good day, everybody. Welcome back to our online lectures, Bhakti Marga Philosophy. Today we're going to speak about yoga philosophy. So the last few times we have looked at Vedanta philosophy, then we have looked at Vaishnavism, which is one branch in Hinduism where we belong to, which is more a theology, like where God is involved, theology mixed with philosophy. We have spoken about our philosophy, the Vishishtadvaita, Vedanta philosophy, this qualified non-dualism. We have last time looked at the Sri Sampradaya, which is the spiritual tradition in this Vaishnava field, which describes and explains the different aspects of reality, like who is God, who am I, what's the relationship with God, what's the relationship with this world, what's the final goal, God, soul, world. Those concepts have been explained. God being the supreme, all-pervading Narayana, with all auspicious qualities, the soul, the Atman, being a part of him, same in quality but not same in quantity, and the material reality being also an eternal part of him. All of those things we have looked. I will not go more into detail, because today, as we speak about yoga philosophy, we are actually entering a different realm. It's still speaking of similar things, but it's changing a little bit the viewpoint, so therefore I will not go deeper into the summaries from the last times. Feel free to watch them if you are interested. So today we're speaking about Vedanta yoga philosophy. I would say, well, everybody nowadays knows yoga. The word yoga is something which is so known. I think even a granny or a child has heard somehow yoga. It has almost become a word which has been integrated into the vocabulary of the different countries. So, but what is yoga actually, and what is the origin of yoga? That very few people really know. So let's see, where does yoga come from? So yoga is said to be actually firstly taught by Shiva. As you remember, the God in the Hindu tradition has many aspects, Shiva being that supreme consciousness, also having different aspects. And in the aspect of Dakshinamurti, he is like the primordial first guru who has taught the yoga science. Shiva is also called Yogeshvara, the Lord of Yoga. So when has this happened? Well, there's different viewpoints, but definitely pre-Vedic, before the Vedas have been compiled and written down. We're speaking about 15,000 or even more years back, that this ancient knowledge has been given by Lord Shiva to especially the Sapta Rishis, the 7 main rishis, which then have propagated and spread it all over the world. So Shiva was the first propagator of yoga. You can see in many ancient traditions, many ancient drawings, not just in India, but many places of the world, people making yoga postures. So this has been present in many traditions for a long time. The first written texts about yoga we find actually in the Vedas. The Vedas, I hope you remember when we spoke about the Hindu scriptures, we had two kinds of scriptures. We had on one side the revealed scriptures, the Shrutis, which were like the Vedas, basically these revealed scriptures. And on the other side, we had the Smritis, the scriptures which have been told. So the first findings where yoga is being talked about is in the Vedas. Vedas, like we said, the knowledge of the Veda is again eternal, given by God, but it was compiled about 5,000 years ago by Vedavyasa. Yoga is actually one of the 6 main philosophies in the Hindu tradition on Sanatana Dharma. Yeah, you remember Sanatana Dharma is actually the right expression for Hinduism. Sanatana Dharma, the eternal, universal cosmic laws, or the eternal, universal, eternal religion. That is what Hinduism stands for. And in the lecture, the diversity in the unity, or plurality in the unity, we have looked at many of those factors. One of it was philosophy. And there we have identified that there's 6 main philosophies. There's many more, but 6 main ones. One of them is the yoga philosophy. Yeah, like we looked at another one, the Vedanta philosophy, which was also part of those 6 main ones. That's what we looked a few weeks back. Today we're going to look at the yoga philosophy. Yeah, and then besides the Vedas, one of the actually most important texts and mostly referred to when we speak about yoga are the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. The sutras, again, if you try to remember, when we spoke about the scriptures, the revealed scriptures and the told scriptures, the Shrutis and the Smritis. So in these Smritis, in these told scriptures, we had histories like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, we had the Puranas, we had the Agamas, and we had the Sutras. Sutras are small aphorisms, if you remember, few words or sentence which contain a lot of knowledge. I have explained it and made a little bit the analogy of a zip data on the computer, where you press on it, there's a lot of information in it, you press on it and a lot comes out. Similarly, these aphorisms are containers of deep knowledge where then great sages have give commentaries on. So the Yoga Sutras are the main ones which speak about the yoga philosophy by Patanjali. And the second one is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, again, we have spoken about it. It's part of this great epos, the Mahabharata, 700 verses which contain all the Vedic knowledge, where God speaks with humanity in the form of Krishna speaking to Arjuna, or the divine master, the realized master, speaking to the disciple and instructing him on all kinds of different aspects of this of life. In that also many different yoga paths are explained and talked of. So these are the 2 main ones which we're going to focus: the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and the Bhagavad Gita. Patanjali is actually considered the father, the modern father of yoga. Yeah, so even though he has lived also centuries before Christ, again, their opinions differ, if it was a few centuries or if it was a few thousand years, but still you can see the father of modern yoga. Modern in that moment means like still a few thousand years back, because if you look at history or like at the counting in the Hindu tradition, all these cycles, these cosmic cycles, a few thousand years is quite nothing, and therefore he is considered the father of modern yoga, and therefore often yoga is just attributed to him, yeah, to Patanjali. Let's see, this is Dakshinamurti, depicted here, the form of Shiva, how he instructs the rishis, the seers, into the yoga science, the Sapta rishis mainly, which have then spread out and have diffused this knowledge of yoga. So what is actually yoga? When we speak about yoga, we have many different paths of yoga. Nowadays, yoga is mainly considered practice which happens Tuesday and Thursday in the evening for 1 hour, a few exercises, or Wednesday and Friday for an hour, and then we are yogis or practicing yoga. Well, it's partly true, because yoga is much more than just doing a few physical exercises or a few breathing exercises for a little bit of well-being. Yoga is actually a very ancient and deep science. Philosophy, the seeking for knowledge, the seeking for truth is the highest science. So this yoga is a very deep science which seeks to find a unity and a harmony between the body, the mind, and the soul. To balance everything. The word yoga itself means unity or unification, to unite. So what does yoga actually try to unite? In yoga, when we speak about unity, it refers actually to the union of this limited self, what we think to be the ego identity, with this unlimited self, what we truly are, the Atman, the Jivan, the true self, the soul, the spiritual being, what we are. To unite those, to realize that is what yoga actually is. The purpose of yoga is Atman Anubhavan, self-realization, the realization of Atma, the state of Kaivalya, the state of liberation, of beingness, just being you, who you truly are. That is what yoga aims to. So yoga is much more than just a few exercises which we do once in a while for a short moment. Yoga is, like I said, a science. Yoga is a way of living. Yoga is a path to self-realization, to liberation. You remember when we spoke about the different tenets of Hinduism, what Hindus have all in common. When I spoke about this tree with the roots and the trunk, I am a soul, an Atman seeking for Brahman. Because of karma, I am limited in this physical reality in a cycle of samsara, of reincarnation. By living according to a certain dharma, a certain ethic, I can attain moksha, liberation. That is what yoga aims for. Or that is what the yoga science can give us. In that process, there have been a lot of different yogas. A lot of yogas have developed. It is said that after the first instruction given by Shiva, Dakshinamurti, over 1,800 different yoga systems have developed. 1,800, We have a lot of yoga going on in the world, even though a lot of it has nothing to do with yoga. But still, after that, Shiva has explained it and it was spread. Different tradition and different teachers and different paths have developed their own systems. Later on, Patanjali, that's why he is called the father of modern yoga, has reunited all those different paths, because yoga is one big field. He has reunited it and written down the Yoga Sutras. In these Yoga Sutras, he has explained a very simple formula of yoga. he has explained the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga means the 8 limbs. Yeah, so it's a path which is consisted of 8 different limbs, of 8 different parts. That is the yoga which Patanjali has explained. Since a while, Ashtanga Yoga is actually often put in equal with Raja Yoga. Yeah, we sometimes call it by the name Raja Yoga, the royal path of yoga. Raja Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga nowadays is quite synonymous. We will look into this, what these 8 paths are before, but before we do that, I just want to mention the other main paths. Yeah, the other main paths are Karma Yoga, the path of selfless service, Jnana Yoga, the path of contemplation, and Bhakti Yoga, the path of love and devotion. These 3, or better 4 paths, together with Raja Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, are the main paths in the yoga world. There is, of course, many more different yoga systems and practices, some very known, but I argue that all of the systems are somehow involved in those 4 main paths. Yeah, very known Kundalini Yoga, where it's used the energy of the body, chakras, and all of this to get to a certain state. It is somehow included in these paths. Kriya Yoga, which we also practice in Bhakti Marga. We will see that in the next lecture probably, but also that has a connection with all those different paths. Yeah. So, and there might be tons of other paths, Hatha Yoga and so on. It is all present to some extent in those 4 paths. And also those 4 paths, they are not completely separated paths. They go somehow hand in hand. It is more like, where are they based? What is their main focus? If you are on the path of Bhakti, like Bhakti Marga, like I am, does that mean that there is no parts of jnana, no parts of contemplation and knowledge? No, of course, those parts are also part of my path. Does that mean that there's no parts of karma yoga, the idea of selfless service? Of course, that is also in my path. Also the Ashtanga Yoga path, the practice, the technical practice of meditation and yoga, also that is part of this Bhakti path. But the main focus is and stays love and devotion. And the others support that main focus, that basis. And the same is if somebody is on the jnana path. That doesn't mean that he's deprived of any elements of bhakti or karma or ashtanga. Yeah, so they are all going hand in hand. It depends only where are you centered, and therefore that will be your main focus. Yeah, so they are hand in hand, and these are the main 4 paths which we're gonna look at now. So now we're gonna first look at the Ashtanga Yoga path. The Ashtanga Yoga path, like I said, is composed of 8 elements. The first elements, the basis, are yama, which are abstinences, which are 5 regulations, what you should abstain of on your spiritual path, on your yoga practice. We will look at it in a minute. The second point is niyama, observances, like rules and regulations, which you should follow. Like, what should you abstain for? What should you follow? Yeah, these are the basis. In that, we will see in a moment, that makes actually your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It is not just some practices once or twice a week. The third point is probably the most known one for people, which is the asanas, postures, yeah, physical postures, which you can do. Most of the people know yoga by that. to stay flexible and bend your body parts in all directions. The fourth part is pranayama, the breath control. To control your breath, prana is actually the life force, which for example, in the Chinese tradition, it's called chi. In the Japanese tradition, it's called the ki, like Tai Chi or Reiki. Like, it's all about this life force in the Hindu tradition. It is prana. So it is not the breath itself, but through the breath we get in touch with this prana, which is this life force pervading everything, to control that. We will also look at it in a minute. The fifth point is pratyahara. Pratyahara is the withdrawal of the senses, to take the senses from the outside towards the inside. The sixth point is concentration, dharana. The seventh point is dhyana, meditation, and it culminates in the eighth point, samadhi, or deep absorption. These are the 8 elements of Ashtanga Yoga, this 8-limbed path. To remember them, I sometimes use the image of a car and somebody who drives a car. Maybe it's helpful for you. So if you have a car, if you want to drive somewhere, get somewhere to your goal, you need firstly to know the abstinences, the yamas and the niyamas, like the rules and regulations, what you should abstain for and what you should observe. Like, you shouldn't get drunk while you drive. You should treat the car, you shouldn't put diesel in a petrol car and the other way around. Like, there are certain things which you should just abstain of, be it on you as the one who drives and in relation to the car. Observance, you should know how the regulations of the road are. Then the third point, the postures. What are the postures doing? Like, if you take the example of the car, it's like you're putting the grease on the joints and everything so that the car stays properly, that it's going to function for a long time. If you never put some oil or something, it's going to get rusty soon and probably break. So you need to oil this car a little bit. You know how to treat this car, this machine here, what you should do, how you should oil them, these joints. Pranayama in the car would be, which fuel are you putting in? Is it a battery driven car? Is it petrol? Is it diesel? Anyway, you need to put some fuel into it so that you can drive this car. The same thing is in this machinery here. You need to put energy inside. It needs to be energized so that it functions. Pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses. If you're driving now, you shouldn't get distracted by outside inputs, like the radio is too loud, or you have somebody sitting next to you, talking to you, distracting you. So put the senses inside. That will help you to concentrate more on the road and on the path. So the concentration will culminate in a meditation where you're single-pointed minded, and you will finally get to the final goal, samadhi, the absorption, where you reach where you wanted to go to. This just as a small example maybe the one or the other will help to remember it. Know how you should treat your car, what you should abstain and what you should follow. Put some grease in it, keep it flexible, put the right petrol in it, withdraw, concentrate, meditate, and get to the goal. So the yamas and the niyamas, the abstinences and the observations are each time 5. So the yamas, the 5 yamas are firstly ahimsa. Ahimsa is non-violence. Satyam, not lying or truthfulness. Asteya, which means not stealing. Brahmacharya, not indulging in unnecessary sense pleasures. And aparigraha, which is non-hoarding or avoiding greediness. Yeah. So these are the 5 things which you should avoid. So let's have a quick look at all of them. Ahimsa, non-violence, or use the least violence. That will definitely influence my lifestyle. If I live according to this law, it means non-violence, of course, to myself, to people around me, in mind, speech, and action. It also will influence my eating ways, yeah? Because, for example, non-violence will also include not killing. Sure. But it will also include no supporting of killing. So nowadays, you probably, if you follow the yamas of yoga, you will become a vegetarian or a plant-based diet, vegan or whatever, yeah, to have the least violence inflicted in the world. Satyam, being truthful or not lying, abstaining from lying. Well, we have spoken in one of the sessions of the Hindu scriptures, when there was this dark age starting, Kali Yuga, that the only virtue which was holding up was truthfulness. So this dark age wanted to cut off this last leg from the bull. If you remember the story, it was told in the session of the Hindu scriptures, that this dark age personified wanted to cut off the last leg of the bull, which represented truthfulness, so that humankind would fall completely into the darkness, into materialism, and lose the ultimate connection to the spiritual part. So truthfulness, not lying, that has, of course, a very important point. Asteya, not stealing. Well, the concept of karma, don't take anything which doesn't belong to you. You get what you deserve, yeah? Clear. Brahmacharya, non-unnecessary sense indulgement. Of course, it's connected with the idea of pratyahara, which was the pulling the senses within. The more we go outside and we let these senses just go wild, doing whatever they want, yeah, they are sometimes depicted like horses in front of a chariot. If you don't tame them, they will just do whatever they want, yeah? So tame those senses and don't indulge unnecessarily in sense pleasures, because otherwise, again, it's going to be an obstacle to your self-realization, because that is what the goal is. So all of those points, they are related always to the goal. The goal is self-realization, to unify this limited self with the unlimited. Well, what is the process? What are things which are gonna support me in that process? And aparigraha, the non-hoarding, non-amassing unnecessary material things, because again, you know, this material reality is temporary and it's not gonna fulfill you. So have what you need, but don't be greedy, don't be stingy, don't be attached above everything. Attachment is definitely a part which is involved in that. So we could say these 5 yamas, they are very much related also to your interaction with the outside world. Yeah, how you interact with the outside world. The niyamas, which are the observances which you should follow, are saucham, cleanliness, santosha, contentment, tapas, self-discipline, svadhyaya, study or self-study, and ishvara pranidhana, devotion or surrender. Again, very beautiful. Saucham, cleanliness, cleanliness of mind, yeah, what you put in there. And also of the external, the physical aspect, yeah, cleanliness of body and mind. My father often said, how it is outside, so it is inside. So treat the outside clean and the inside clean. Santosha, contentment, to be content with what you have. especially nowadays when we are in times where we have everything. Yeah, especially in the Western world, people have all a roof over their head, they all have food on the table, but still we have the greatest rate of what? Of depression and suicide. Well, where does that come from? That is because people are just not appreciating what they have. There's no contentment. But contentment is not something which you find on the road to pick. Yeah, contentment is something which you have to observe and develop. Appreciation, gratefulness, positive thinking, all of those things, they are something which you need to cultivate. We need to cultivate if we are on the path of yoga. That is our observation which we should keep. Tapas, self-discipline. Well, self-discipline is self-explanatory. Discipline is just that which goes through all of those points, be it cleanliness, be it content. Yeah, how do I be content? I need to have a discipline of controlling my thoughts when it goes into a negative direction. No, to pull myself back and see the positive, see the bright side of life. In the morning you wake up, oh, I would like to keep sleeping, or should I stand up and do my yoga practice? Well, if you are disciplined, if you practice tapasya, then you will stand up and overcome your lower impulses of just enjoying and being lazy. So tapas is self-discipline, and discipline, of course, is also connected with other major point, which is perseverance. Sorry, I often mix it up with the languages. Perseverance, like you have to keep going. The goal is not going to be attained within one weekend. It's not going to be attained if you practice yoga for 1 month or 1 year. No, you have to be ready to dedicate yourself to that ultimate goal, which is a very high goal, but it is attainable, but only if you keep discipline and perseverance. Svadhyaya, self-study. Well, to do self-analysis. Where do I stand? How did I live my day? Was it positive? Was it negative? Did I support others? Did I live according to these rules and regulations I have actually signed off, which I want to cultivate? So self-study has two aspects. One, an internal one where you analyze yourself, and an external one by studying the Holy Scriptures and the teachings which are given by the Holy Scriptures, and using them and applying them to your self-study, which is an internal one. Self-study is a very important thing, because in that it's not about judging yourself. Don't judge not to be judged, but it's about you seeing where you stand in relation to your goal, and to realize what the changes you could make to improve your process to that goal. And finally, Ishvara Pranidhana, devotion or surrender. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, this term, surrender, devotion, is very loosely explained. It is explained to something higher. It is not said to God or not God, or Narayana or Shiva or this or that. It just says Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara, if you remember, in the Vaishnava tradition, in our tradition, it is Ishvara. It is the ultimate in this threefold nature of God. Yeah, God consisting of sentient being, insentient being, and Ishvara, the ultimate, which pervades everything, this Paramatma. That's how we as Vaishnavas will interpret this Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to the Lord, surrender to God. But in the Yoga Sutras, it is so nicely brought up that it is even not referred to God, that even an atheist might find himself okay with it, because it can be to some higher force which is unknown, to the universe, to the cosmos, or whatever. But that are some things which we should follow. So these are the 5 yamas and the 5 niyamas. Yeah, they are making the lifestyle. They are explaining the lifestyle which you should follow if you follow the path of yoga. Then the next points were asanas. Asanas, which, like I said, maintaining a healthy body. This body is a temple of God where your Atma resides, so keep it healthy, honor it. It is this instrument which you got to develop, to grow, to achieve your final destination. So honor it by keeping it healthy and not by destroying it unnecessarily. Yeah, it's a gift which was given this human body. And so first point is it is a temple of God, and the second point is that maintain this body also flexible for prolonged meditation. So nowadays there's a lot of asanas being done. People are bending the feet all over. Very cool, very nice. But actually the asanas are supposed to make your body healthy and strong so that you can sit in prolonged meditation, prolonged absorption to get this final destination. Yeah. So just know what's the purpose of this. Pranayama. Pranayama, we said, is the control of prana, the life force. Pranayama is control of the breath, because this life force and breath are very much connected. If you look at yourself, if you are scared, how do you breathe? If you are angry, how do you breathe? Very irregular, very fast. On the other hand, when you're very relaxed, how do you breathe? When you're in very chill out mode, how do you breathe? Very calmly. If you're in a meditative state, very calmly, deep and slow. So in that we can see that the breath and our state of mind, our mood, our state of being, they are very much connected. That is what the yoga science knows since thousands of years, and therefore has just reversed the process. If by getting agitated in my mind, my breath is being agitated, well, may I not just turn it around the moment my mind gets agitated? If I calm my breath, if I control my breath and the flow of energy through it, will not my mind also calm down? Definitely it will. That's why I say it is a science. It is a very deep science which works on all levels of the physical body, the astral, the causal, etc., etc. There's so much depth into it. Pranayama, there's many practices in pranayama. Pratyahara. Pratyahara is this withdrawal of the senses. To focus more on the internal than on the external. That is a very important and necessary thing on this process of deep meditation, absorption, and realizing the self. Because there is just not the perfect place for meditation. You can go anywhere. It's very difficult that you find a place which is just absolutely quiet. Or where there's not a single fly or single animal or insect which is crawling on you or which is annoying you. So if you are able to withdraw the senses, the outside circumstance will not bother, and you can endeavor into this internal journey without any problems. Yeah, these are the 3, 4, and 5, and now we go to the next points, which were concentration, meditation, and samadhi. And I just drew something to illustrate it. I hope you can understand it better. So it's basically, normally, if we have thoughts, our normal thinking is a very confused thinking. Yeah, like all of those letters, they represent one thought. IREALLTHINKTOOMUCH. Yeah? Yes, I really think too much. But let's say all of these letters, every letter represents one thought. That's how we work daily. Yeah? We are jumping from one thought to the next. What should I eat? What is going on with my job, my family, my children? Oh, then there's this worry. Oh, did I do this? Did I do that? Oh my God, tomorrow I have to do that. Yesterday I did that, etc., etc. It's just a constant flow of thoughts. They are just moving around like clouds passing by wildly. This thinking is happening in a reality which is determined by time and space. So your thinking and your awareness is now, past and future, and the place where you are. So you are quite aware of your external circumstances. You think many thoughts in a reality which is time and space. So now if we take the sixth point, dharana or concentration, which is one part of this 8 limbs, now we see that we want to concentrate our mind on one thought. Let's say the thought A. Yeah, so we do A, but, yeah, B-U-T, there's different thoughts coming, and now we get our thoughts back again. No, focus on A, and then other thoughts come in, F-O-R-G-E-T, and again we take our thoughts back, A, S-L-E-E-P, yeah? There's just distractions, and we do an effort to get the thoughts back on our point of focus, on our object of concentration. And this again happens in a reality which is in time and space. Yeah, so our focus could be on a divine image, on the name of God, on a flame, on the image of the master, on the third eye, on the heart, yeah, on a place. But we want to concentrate and our mind is always running away. I think you all have experienced those things. Once we practice that, that is like a bodybuilding. We are doing bodybuilding, yeah? We are building and building. We are strengthening this muscle to control this mind more and more, to focus it on one place. We come to the next point, which is dhyana, meditation. So in meditation, we have now come to the place where we have mastered to have a single pointed mind focusing just on this object of meditation, which in that sense I put as the letter A. Yeah, now I'm focused fully on A. Now I'm focused fully on the name of God. Now I'm focused fully on this image of God. Now I'm focused fully on the flame. Now I'm focused fully just on my third eye, etc. Also, this happens in a reality which is within time and space. Once we stay in that state and keep on meditating, keep on having this single pointed mind, this single flow of consciousness to one object of meditation, we attain finally the place of samadhi, absorption, where we stay in this absorption of that object of thought or image of God. The only difference is time and space get dissolved. Time and space get dissolved, and now we enter into a different state of consciousness where we are not anymore limited by a reality which is in time and space. Yeah, this state of samadhi, where again there's different degrees of samadhi, which will help us to finally dive deeper and attain this state, a state of being, kaivalya, or self-realization, atma anubhavan. They all more or less speak about the same thing. Yeah, so these are the 8 limbs of this Ashtanga yoga created by Patanjali. The 8 limbs being abstinences, observations which you should follow, asanas, the postures, pranayama, controlling of the breath, pratyahara, putting your senses within, then concentration, dharana, meditation, a prolonged concentration to finally get absorbed in the object of meditation and losing the awareness of time and space, samadhi. Yeah. Actually, in the first verse of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, he declares and describes yoga being yoga chitta vritta nirodha, meaning yoga is actually the process of calming the waves of our mind, yeah, calming our thoughts. And you can see all those 8 elements are supporting this process. Because Paramahamsa Vishwananda, my spiritual master, he always said the spiritual path is not the path to go somewhere into the Himalayas, but it's actually the path from here to here. It's just 40 centimeters. But anybody who tried that path knows that those 40 centimeters sometimes can be a long path. And as long as up there's a lot of waves, it's like when you're on the ocean or on the sea. It may be the clearest water, but as long as the water on the surface is moving, you won't see into the depth. But if everything becomes calm, you will see into the depth. The same thing happens here. Once this one gets calm, you can dive deeper and deeper into your true self. That is the idea behind calming the mind, behind the yoga science of Patanjali, to get this unification, this Atma Anubhavan. Okay? Having described those 8 elements, let me now quickly go through the other 3 main paths, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, in relation to the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, also these 8 limbs are being mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita just contains everything. But let's now jump on, for example, the first thing, Karma Yoga. Okay, Karma Yoga, in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 2, verse 47, Lord Krishna, this divine incarnation, says to Arjuna, representing humankind, that you have a right to act, but not to the fruits of that action. Do not allow rewards to be your motive for action. At the same time, do not be attached to avoiding action. This is actually a very nice statement where he defines Karma Yoga in a very simple way. So what he is saying is basically, you have the right to action, but only to action, never to the fruits. Abstain from the attachment to the fruits of your action. Don't have expectations to the outcome of your actions. Do your best, leave God the rest. Yeah, don't be attached to the outcome. Just do it with the right intent. And the intent should not be a selfish one for me, but it should be for the welfare of the world, for loka sangraha. For the welfare of the world. Do your action, but not with the motive of getting a reward from your action. At the same time, don't think to not do any actions. Don't think to leave your duties. Yeah, sometimes spiritual people think, let me go to a cave or to an ashram and just meditate. That is not spirituality how it is lived nowadays. Yeah, Krishna says it, my Guru Dev Paramahamsa Vishwananda says it, spirituality is something which happens in this world. You have to be like the lotus in the middle of the mud, blooming without being affected by the outside. And that is what Karma Yoga gives you. By living in the world, you act, you serve for the welfare of the world, but you're not attached to it. It's not affecting you. And just get the idea of Karma Yoga. You see, we spoke in this, if we go back to our Hinduism explanation, what is the basis, the roots and the trunk? I am an Atman seeking the Brahman. Because of karma, because of actions which need to be unfolded, which the reaction has to happen, because of cause and effect, I am bind to a material reality. I am bind. So karma is actually this one factor which is binding us. As long as there's causes which need to get dissolved, I will still be in the cycle of reincarnation, samsara. So with every moment, with every moment that passes, some causes are being dissolved. The problem is now, by doing something, by moving on, I'm creating new actions, I'm creating new causes which will have new effects. And therefore, I'm now in a vicious circle which I will never exit unless I know the science of karma yoga, where it is you do the action, but do them with a detached mindset. Therefore, if you detach your mindset, that action will not attach to you, you will not get affected by its causes, it will not create karma for you. So what happens? You move on, you're just dissolving old karma. You're not creating new karma. And at some point, your bag will just be empty. And once you're empty, you attain moksha, liberation, self-realization. The concept is very easy. Take karma as money. The only difference is money you want a lot, karma you don't. But let's say you spend your money and you just keep spending without earning. Sooner or later, you will be out of money. The same thing happens in karma yoga. Yeah? If you just spend your karma and never earn any karma, you will be free of karma. And that's actually a very good thing, to be free of karma. He says further to finalize the point in chapter 18 verse 49, one who is completely unattached, who is self-controlled and is free from desire, like we just explained, is liberated from all consequences of action. Such renunciation brings that supreme perfection. Yeah? This is exactly what I just explained. If you are unattached, if you're free of desires, if you're not attached to the results, no, you don't have desires, you just do it for the sake of doing, do it in a mindset of sacrifice, in a mindset of service, welfare for others. That is what karma yoga is. You don't think of yourself, you think of the welfare of others. In that moment, you will be liberated from all consequences of actions and you will reach the supreme perfection. Okay? This is the basis of karma yoga. What is now jnana yoga? The next point, jnana yoga. Jnana yoga is a direct contemplation of the eternal soul. And it involves 4 main points. So the first point, it is sannyas, renunciation of prescribed action. So a jnana yogi is now doing not what a karma yogi does, doing actions without attachment. No, he tries to avoid action altogether. Because if you avoid actions, you will have no reactions. And therefore, you will not create new karma. Second point, keeping the sense stimulations to a minimum. Yeah, don't do anything which stimulates your senses, because you are contemplating on the eternal soul and the senses are just not real. Emotions are negated. Yeah, emotions and the sense pleasures, they're all negated. You feel cold, you feel hunger. No, it's not true, because you are the soul. Fourth point, contemplating, I am not the body, I am the eternal Atma, I am the eternal self. Neti, neti, I am not this, I am not that, I'm not my thinking, I'm not my emotions, I'm not that. And like this, it's like peeling a onion, layer by layer. I'm not this and I'm not that and I'm not this and I'm not that, till you get to the center, to the heart, to the essence of what you truly are. That Atman, that essence. This path is a very difficult path, a very rigorous path. which Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita explains and gives merit to it, but at the same time says, watch out, it is not manageable for you to do. You see, even the first part of renouncing prescribed actions, renouncing actions altogether, it is almost impossible when you're bodily incarnated. Because even the heartbeat is an action in itself. Even breathing is an action in itself. To speak about the basic ones, he explains the danger of desires, how they can make you fall down. And yes, externally you can avoid desires and pleasures. But he says, is even in your system there's somewhere an idea of this pleasure, somewhere a longing of pleasures, a rasa. You will not attain that final state and you will fall. So this is a very, very difficult path. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there is different yoga paths, but he gives also recommendation which one would be better to follow. So he says very clearly in various instances, Karma Yoga in that sense is better than Jnana Yoga. It gains the same goal, but Karma Yoga has just some benefits because it is more natural for the body, because it supports the cosmic order, because it is for the welfare of the world. All things which Jnana Yoga does not. Yeah, so just that you are aware, there is different paths, but again, also Krishna describes and recommends different paths. So what does he further say on that in the Bhagavad Gita? Just read you these verses. Chapter 18, verse 51-53 is kind of a nice summary of this Jnana Yoga, using his purified intellect, subduing the mind with determination, renunciation, renouncing the objects of the senses, such as sound, etc., abandoning attraction and hatred for things, being completely indifferent, living in solitude, eating little, restraining his speech, body and mind, constantly engaged in the yoga of meditation with a mood of dispassion, having given up all self-centered ideas along with power, arrogance, desire, anger, material things, such a person has no sense of ownership. And the ultimate sense of ownership is actually this I, this ego identity. Such a yogi gives all of this up. He remains peaceful and becomes worthy of the state of Brahman. Yeah, this is just an explanation of Jnana Yoga, how it is described in the Gita. And finally, we get to the last point, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, very easily explained, it would be the path in where he says, chapter 9, verse 34, focus your mind on me, on God, be devoted to me, to God, offer worship to me, to God, bow down to me, to God. Engaging your mind in this way, holding God, holding Krishna as the supreme goal, you will surely come to me. This is how he describes, in a very simple way, Bhakti Yoga. Of course, there's much more to say to it, but the basic is that. So you see now in Bhakti Yoga, he says, just be absorbed into the highest truth. There's no need for all these other things like controlling the mind and the senses, because that will automatically happen if you focus your mind to that ultimate reality, to the ultimate Lord, Narayana, Krishna, whatever you want to call him. Be devoted to him. Have this sense of submission, surrender, devotion, which was one element of the Ashtanga Yoga, in the observances, to have devotion, Ishvara Pranidhana. Worship God. That's why, like we explained in the last session, in the Sri Sampradaya, in our tradition, there's a big practice of rituals, yeah, external rituals, worshipping God in all his different aspects and forms, bowing down with your whole body. That is, sometimes some traditions have that as a whole spiritual practice, where you put actually your mind below the level of your heart. Yeah, all of this are things which increase this devotion and love for God, where you forget about yourself, and the Lord God, this ultimate reality, is now by the grace giving you that realization. And you see, that's the beauty of Bhakti. It is said that Bhakti is a very easy way, as you can see. Yeah, it includes a lot of things: singing his name, singing his glory, dancing, offering, consuming the leftovers, the prasadam which was offered to God. So it's very pleasurable, very simple path, very straightforward. It is at the same time very secure in a sense that it's not focused on you. Yeah, if you other paths, they're dangerous in a sense of it's focused on you. I'm working on myself, I'm overcoming this, I'm overcoming that, and that can easily develop into spiritual pride. Certain spiritual powers are developing, and immediately you're in danger for that. That doesn't happen in Bhakti, because everything is rendered for the pleasure to God. Yeah, so this is described as being the best path. Yeah, in short, it's the best path for our time to engage in loving devotion to God, with all his different practices that we will look at another time. Yeah, but this is also described in the Bhagavad Gita like this. He says actually in chapter 6, verse 47, when he speaks about those yogis, he says, of all yogis, he who has given himself to me with his whole inner self, who loves me and believes in me, he is the highest and the most united with me in yoga. Yeah, so here we can clearly see the statement of the highest of those yogis is the one who has completely abandoned himself, has completely surrendered himself to God with his whole self, loves him, believes in him. Yeah, it's a little bit like in Christianity when Christ was asked, what is the highest commandment? Love your Lord with all your heart, with all your soul. Similarly, Krishna has said many thousand years before, the greatest of the yogis is the one who has surrendered to me, who loves me, who believes in me. That one is the most united with me in yoga. You see, he's even hinting at something else which is more than just self-realization, because self-realization, as we said, is just this state of getting to know your true self. Beyond that, there's the God realization, the eternal relationship between Atma Paramatma, between beloved and lover. Yeah. So in a love relationship, the more you are united, the more you cherish. And he says the most united is this yogi. So Bhakti, he declares as the most united with him. And here we kind of come to a conclusion for today. The last slide, just as a summary. What is now yoga? What we have seen today. Yoga, the word itself means union. It speaks about a union of this limited self, the ego identity, with the ultimate self, the true self, what we are, the Atman. It is mentioned in the Vedas, but mainly in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the father of yoga. It's called Ashtanga Yoga or Raja Yoga, the 8-limbed path or the royal yoga path, which is composed of these 8 limbs: Yam, Niyam, Asanas, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, which we have looked at. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of many different yoga paths. Each chapter is called a yoga path, but it focuses mainly on 3 main paths, namely Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. We have looked shortly at them, and seen the differences and the recommendations which were given in the Bhagavad Gita by Bhagwan Krishna to humankind, to Arjuna. This is what we have seen today. Next lecture on next Saturday, we're gonna look more into Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga, which is one of the most powerful ways of attaining the self-realization. Like I said, it's connected with that. And obviously, mainly Atma Kriya Yoga, the practice which is also practiced in Bhakti Marga, given by Mahavatar Babaji and Paramahamsa Vishwananda to humankind. We will look at Kriya Yoga, Atma Kriya Yoga, and how they are interlinked with these other paths, mainly how it is interlinked with Bhakti, with love for God, how they are connected. That is what we're gonna look up in the next session. I hope I see you there. I hope you liked this lecture. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, do subscribe, share with friends and family, and I hope I see you next week, and I wish you a nice weekend. Jai Gurudev.